Hello, my name is Jack Fleming. This is for Task 3 of Creative Arts Research. This is my presentation. It's called Fusion Composition, which is my term of the art of combining two musical genres. I'm going to be going over some minor, major examples, and I'm going to conclude with some methods I have found. That'll be my conclusion. So what I call minor and major examples are like major examples with a clear use of two or more genres, like ska punk and folk metal. You can clearly tell that there's a really high influence of two genres. And minor examples are what I call artists or subgenres with a clear influence of a main genre but have minor influences of other styles too. Okay, so the main two fusion genres I have been looking at are folk metal and ska punk. Okay, so folk metal obviously is a combination of folk and metal, and this was the experimentation that came from an English band called Skyclawed. They started off basically as a avant-garde thrash metal band, if you like, and they used traditional folk instrumentation and folk harmony along with their kind of like metal style, and they began using lyrical elements from mainly German and some Scandinavian poetry. And they also used English puns, yeah. Martin Wolk, I'm sorry if I butchered the name, Wolkner, but has actually been called a lyrical genius by Metal Hammer. I believe this is probably I'm thinking it was 1997. Yeah, that sounds about right. So it's quite a hard thing to find, but it's in the magazines. So, and actually, let's carry on with folk metal. So what this did was that it actually, hold on, I've got my tattoo here. What it actually did was that it influenced a band called Subway to Sally to create their own self-made genre called medieval rock. And but yeah, I've already shown the Skyclawed example too many times, but I'll show it again just to kind of validate my points. Okay, so you can clearly hear how the starting melody at the start has, it's in the harmony of fifths, but it's in a folk melodic structure. And, there's actually a violin in that. Like, they actually have a violin player. Whereas, this band went on to influence this band. And obviously they have a stronger use of German poetic styles because they're German. And, they have more of a use of kind of like the more sort of rock, kind of like heavy rock instead of like the kind of thrash metal sort of style. Okay, so let's carry on. Let's not bore ourselves here. Okay, so, and this went on to essentially create another genre, which was, I believe, made a year later than Skyclawed's folk metal, and this is called Celtic metal. Special buyers, make your pets feel. Hold on, that's a rubbish example. I'm gonna. Yeah, you get the idea. It's sort of like folk metal, but it takes more of an influence from Scandinavian mythology and stuff like that. I went more into depth with this with my folk metal video. I pretty much found all this information out from a site called Steph Metal. It's a weird spelling. It's Stuff. I think that's because she's from New Zealand, but like she's a professional writer and she's also a metal enthusiast. She's got some great stuff. And this is symphonic folk metal. The reason why I didn't branch it out to just normal symphonic metal is because I felt like it was casting out the metal part a bit too much. Well, completely, actually. And I felt like it would just drive me to research all these metal subgenres that would just be completely irrelevant to the project, and it would just make this way too long. And so, you know, it's got a nice, synth use to it, and it also relates a lot to gaming music, actually. Like, so this is from a PS2 game, and you can hear straight away how there's actually a lot of similarities. You know, it has that kind of medieval synth feel, but it's got a modern sort of EDM touch to it as well, instead of the other example has a more metal feeling, obviously, but so yeah, you can kind of understand why that would suit a video game. Okay. So yeah, I went way more into depth with my video on folk metal, and yeah, ska punk. Now there are three wave. Okay, this is going to need a bit of background context. Let's just go with ska first. There are three waves of ska music: the 50s, which is Jamaican; the 70s, which is British; and the 90s, which is American. Okay, now ska uses a lot of offbeats, and a lot of brass as well, some smooth vocals, and Jamaicans. After World War II, the UK was in an economical crisis, and it called upon other countries to ship people over so they could do basic jobs, Okay, now this is a video of the Jamaicans arriving in the UK. So this was after World War II. Someone's had a bit of a fun trip to the UK. Relearning what stairs are. And, they brought their children. So yeah, and what that did was that kind of brought the ska influence to the UK, and it resulted. Hold on, let's give you an example of first wave ska. This is the original version of Murudi, A Message to You.
Stop your running about. It's time you straighten right out. Stop your running around, making trouble in the town. Rudy, a message to you, Rudy, a message to you. You're growing bolder each day. You want to think of your future.
Yeah. So you can kind of get the characteristics from that. A lot of smooth slides and some offbeats, rim shots. You know, and very good to dance to. You know, because that's kind of what ska was made from, which I got from my source. You know, it was made essentially for dancing. So it's like club music. You know, it took a lot of influence from calypso. Okay. Oh God. And so what this did was that it influenced the British people, and this gave us another genre, ska genre, this dragged us into the second wave of ska, and actually gave us a subgenre called two-tone. And two-tone is essentially English ska with some very, very minor punk influences.
Hi, my name is Kong, and I have helped many ordinary people turn their hobbies into a career.
Yeah, you haven't helped me skip this ad though, have you? Yeah, so it's very similar, but it's a bit more jumpy, a bit more higher tempo, and yeah. So, and then this actually became okay. So ska music or two-tone became more infused with punk, and we eventually had what I like to call early ska punk. So. Yep. Okay, let's talk about why. Yeah, let's talk about why ska and punk relate, how they work so well, and why they first came together. Well, on the Wikipedia page of ska punk, we're kind of told that in London there were essentially audiences for two types of music, ska and punk. So essentially combining the two genres was a way of satisfying the audience, drawing more people in. And this is used today on YouTube, Like if I was to make or create reggae, just kind of like going off my head. Let's just say reggae, Deftone, EDM, black metal band. Then on YouTube, the algorithms would put the black metal audiences, the EDM audiences, reggae audiences, etc. There'd be more recommendations in more people, because if you, as a viewer, listened to a lot of reggae on YouTube, you'd obviously get more recommendations for reggae music. And that's how you stem from. and you'll probably get recommendations of, reggae rock music and stuff like that. And when you listen to more reggae rock, you'll probably just get recommendations for rock music. So yeah, I can completely understand that. It's more of a business point of view. And anyway, let's talk about the compositional sides of things. Both ska and punk are at a very similar tempo. Like, obviously, you've heard the Dandy Livingstone song, Rudy Message to You. And let's listen to this. Okay, so the things these two songs have in common is that they're both fast. Well, same tempo, not necessarily fast. And they're both danceable, People, ska was made for dancing, and, you can dance to punk music. You see it in Plymouth quite a lot. And, they both have, and speaking from a more standpoint, they both have really anti-governmental views. And I think that's not why I think, I know that's how they work so well together. And anyway, so this influenced America, and that's when we have kind of like actual ska punk, I suppose. Like, so you can hear the offbeats and the brass. There's a straightforward beat going with it as well.